see my slides?
Here we can hear Subhas, please.
Okay, so thanks for adjusting the time. Thanks a lot for the chairperson and the organizers. So my topic today is managing critical hypoxemia in COVID-19. So what is critical hypoxemia? As per WHO, there are two categories, severe and critical apart from the moderate. The severe, the main is saturation below 90% on room air, and critical is if somebody requires ventilation and is on septic shock. So these are pretty self-explanatory definitions of severe and critical COVID-19. So I will be talking about these group of patients who have saturation less than 90 or are on ventilator. So how to manage them? Recently there has been an update of COVID-19 management in surviving sepsis guidelines, which goes through all the relevant literature and the clinical experience of the experts and kind of distills the summary of how to manage these patients. So first and foremost is, after we have patients still desaturating on conventional oxygen, it comes the high flow nasal cannula. We are all versed that most of the centers do have high flow nasal cannula, but we are running out of this machine because it is so much in demand. This machine gives almost 60 liters of oxygen, which are warmed and humidified, and we can give an FiO2 up to 100%. The next is non-invasive ventilation. That is also used along with high flow or in place of high flow. Now, what does the surviving sepsis recommends? First and foremost, we should not be trying to get a saturation above 96. I would say I would be happy with a saturation of 93, 94 in a patient. That will not only help that individual patient, but the entire hospital, because the oxygen supply is very much in scarcity in all the facilities. So we should never, nowadays, whenever I go in round, I see a saturation of above 94, I request the nurses to tone down the flow meter, to decrease the FiO2, so that the entire oxygen supply of the hospital is maintained. So that is the first point that we should be looking at. The second is use of high flow is recommended over conventional oxygen therapy and also over non-invasive ventilation. So if somebody has an access to high flow, it is better to use high flow than non-invasive ventilation in COVID-19 because it is a pure hypoxemic respiratory failure. Usually there is no hypercarbia. So we should try HFNC first. A trial of non-invasive ventilation may be tried if HFNC is not available. So I think that's the first message. First message is do not get the SpO2 above 95, 96. Second, try HFNC if it is there. Third, if it is not there, one can try non-invasive ventilation. Now, why is that? Because the conventional non-invasive ventilation has been found to be a little problematic in case of COVID because it has to be given for a very prolonged period of time. 24 hours, 48 hours without stop. And that causes a lot of problems in patient. And that's why probably HFNC is better. Now this helmet NIV, which has not yet come so much of use in Calcutta, but some of like in Delhi and Mumbai, they are using it in many hospitals. So helmet NIV is another way of giving non-invasive ventilation through a different mask, which is more comfortable for the patient. They do not feel so much claustrophobic. They can eat, they can drink, and they can even talk through this. So there has been the recommendation of surviving sepsis on helmet NIV. They have said it is an option. And this was published in March, first week of March. And they said it is an option that one can use an helmet NIV. But just about a week back, this was published, which has definitely shown a helmet NIV is even better than a high flow oxygen in COVID-19 hypoxemic respiratory failure. The reason is probably we can give a PEEP of around 10, almost 10, 12 PEEP, which we cannot give in the high flow nasal cannula. So if one has an access to helmet NIV, it might be useful. So that will be another a new thing, new development is use of an helmet NIV in case of COVID-19. Another thing, once we put a patient on NIV or high flow, they should be very closely monitored, because worsening of these patients and getting intubation all of a sudden becomes very problematic. So these patients needs to be very closely monitored for deterioration. Now, what should we monitor? Not only oxygenation, because oxygenation sometimes is okay, but the patient is gradually getting tired, getting exhausted, and they require intubation. What we do in our center, and few other centers have started doing it, it is very easy to do, is what we call a ROX index. A ROX index is, if I know the FiO2, which I know in high flow, we know exactly the FiO2 patient is on. So SpO2 divided by FiO2 divided by respiratory rate. That is what is ROX index. So a high flow nasal cannula at 12 hours, if ROX index is more than 4.8, the chance of ventilation is very low. On the other hand, if you do a ROX index and you find the ROX index is not high, it is going down over time, this patient is most likely to fail high flow nasal cannula. And this is a chart from our unit. As you can see in the bottom, this is ROX index 6.5, 10, 6.3. We do it almost every 2 hours. But as soon as the patient goes on to a non-rebreathing mask, where we can't follow the FiO2, we can't do a ROX index. So doing a ROX index is a very important way to know whether the high flow, because it takes respiratory rate into account, not only the SpO2 and FiO2. The next thing which comes that, yes, I have put a patient on high flow or an NIV, is this awake proning, which is very much in vogue. Even the patients know about this. So self-proning. But I was surprised to see this recommendation from this latest surviving sepsis. They say there is insufficient evidence to issue a recommendation on the use of awake proning. Now, why is that? We all have found that awake proning does improve oxygenation. The reason for this is what they are saying, that in some patients, this might delay intubation, because we get a false sense of security that by proning, the saturation has gone up, so let us continue. Whereas the underlying disease progress keeps on progressing, and that's why, and delayed intubation in case of COVID can cause harm, as was shown in this study from Pune, which was published just last week in Indian Journal. Dr. Zirpe and others, they had shown that the mortality goes up to 77% from 60 if the intubation is delayed for more than 48 hours. So it is very important that we should not be satisfied just increasing saturation, but we should be more active. So this is the step ladder pattern of, once you fail high flow nasal cannula or non-invasive, goes on to ventilation, is lung protective ventilation, high PEEP strategy, prone positioning, recruitment, and ECMO. So ventilatory status, all patients should be ventilated with lung protective 4 to 8 cc per kg. The plateau pressure should be less than 30, and one should use a very high PEEP strategy. And one should not be given too much of fluid, because there is always a chance of developing lung edema. And one should prone even on ventilator. The standard proning which was being recommended is prone ventilation for 12 to 16 hours. But lately, because these patients are so sick, we have been proning patients to 38 or even 48 hours with due precautions for pressure source. And prolonged prone position, we keep on proning till the oxygenation improves, keeps on improving. Once it plateaus, then we put the patient on supine. This also decreases workload on the nurses, the doctors, because proning and doing supine is a lot of workload. So if we can keep the patient prone for a longer period while the oxygenation is improving, and just make him so instead of multiple proning, we do just one prolonged proning. So that is a new thing which has come, and we practice that in our unit in some patients. Then comes the recruitment maneuver. That is, we increase the PEEP or CPAP to 40 for 40 seconds. This is a bold maneuver, you might say, but it helps a lot of patients. The patient have to be sedated and paralyzed. Like recently, we did it in one patient. The patient was desaturating on 100% oxygen. She was sedated and paralyzed, and she was on. We put a CPAP of 40 for 40 seconds, PEEP of 40, pressure support of 0 for 40 seconds, and her saturation came from 87 to 96 within a minute or so. So it is always worthwhile trying this in patient in whom is very difficult to oxygenate. So recruitment maneuver of is still recommended, but there are many types of recruitment maneuvers, but this 40 for 40 second is the one which should be used. Now comes the inhaled nitric oxide and inhaled prostacyclin. This is, even I do not have much experience with this, but if there are certain patients of COVID-19 who have very severe pulmonary hypertension and right heart failure, amounting to acute cor pulmonale. These patients do benefit from inhaled nitric oxide and inhaled pulmonary vasodilator. So that these are costly drugs, and there are logistic issues with these drugs. And then comes the ECMO. Now, ECMO is something which is being used more and more in COVID-19, as you are all aware of. But the indications should be very strict. So refractory hypoxemia, usually it is PF ratio less than 60 for 3 to 4 hours, or less than 80 for 6 hours, or if you have a pH of less than 7.2 and a high PCO2, then you go for ECMO. But it is very resource intensive. It eats away almost all the oxygen supply of the hospital. The mortality on ECMO patient in the worldwide registry of COVID-19 is, in the first wave, it was 50%, but in the second wave, it has been around 70%. So one has to be very careful, and it is a very expensive treatment, very resource intensive nature of ECMO. So carefully selected, very experienced centers with good infrastructure, young patients who have been not on prolonged ventilation, and only a single organ probably should be given ECMO. So to summarize, once we give a patient on high flow nasal cannula, if it is not available, non-invasive ventilation, proning, awake proning, if that fails, this patient, and these patients should be monitored very closely, probably with ROX index. If not, just see the patient, see whether they are getting exhausted. If they are, do not delay and prolong and do a lung protective ventilation. Put a patient on high PEEP strategy. Most of them require neuromuscular blocker. Prone the patient while on ventilation. Do recruitment maneuvers whenever possible, and ECMOs if everything else fails in a very, very selected group of patients. So thank you very much for your patient listening. And again, thank you for adjusting time. So if any questions, I am here to answer those.
Thank you, sir, for your excellent deliberation. One or two questions could be put to our...
Dr. Subhas, can I make one very simple social question? Very simple social question. Some of the authorities are telling that you should avoid high flow nasal cannula,
right,
just not to deplete the oxygen sources. And on the other hand, we are worried that if we do for the ventilation invasive, the problem of ventilated related problem is going to much higher. So where do we stand now?
No, it depends upon where the patient is. It is between individual and the entire organization. But if a patient is in front of you with less saturation and he improves on high flow and he is not getting better with conventional, I'm not saying you should give high flow to all patients. Once the patient fails the non-rebreathing facial mask, that's the maximum you can give. And on that, the patient is 82, 83. You don't have any other option. No? You have to give that patient on high flow oxygen. Yes, I
Okay.
know high flow eats away a lot of oxygen supply, but the patient will die.
Thank you, sir, for your excellent deliberation. We have learned.